The afternoon began with the kind of quiet that feels heavier than noise. The kind that settles into your chest and reminds you of everything you've lost. The widowed father sat alone at a small cafe table, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold, his young daughter beside him swinging her legs that barely reached the chair's edge. He was not prepared for the moment that would unravel his grief and gently stitch it back together again. The moment when a one-legged girl approached and asked if she could share their table, and when his daughter's unexpected response shifted the meaning of kindness, pain, and healing forever. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. The man's life had been divided cleanly into before and after. Before was laughter echoing through a small apartment, the smell of home-cooked meals, the comfort of a partner who shared the weight of parenting and dreams. After was silence, medical bills stacked like unopenable letters of regret, and a little girl who asked questions he never knew how to answer. His wife had died 2 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him not only a widower but a single father, struggling to remain emotionally present while drowning in his own grief. Every day felt like walking through fog, thick and unyielding, where even familiar places felt distant and unreal. His daughter was the reason he kept going. She had her mother's eyes and an unfiltered curiosity about the world, paired with a gentleness that often caught him off guard. Yet even she had begun to change. She spoke less about her mother now, not because she had forgotten, but because she sensed the way the subject hollowed him out. He noticed how she watched him sometimes, quietly, as if checking whether he was still there. That realization scared him more than the loneliness, so on days when the walls felt like they were closing in, he took her out for simple rituals, ice cream on Sundays, walks through the park, or afternoons at this modest cafe where sunlight filtered through dusty windows and the world seemed slower. That day, the cafe was moderately full, a hum of conversations and clinking cups filling the air. He chose a corner table, instinctively avoiding the center of the room. He had learned that grief made him allergic to crowds, to other people's happiness. As his daughter stirred sugar into her milk, he stared into space, replaying memories he couldn't seem to let go of. That was when he sensed a presence near the table, a pause in the rhythm of passing footsteps. The girl who stood there was young, perhaps in her late teens or early 20s. She balanced confidently on crutches, one leg ending neatly above the knee, her posture straight but her eyes cautious. There was no pity in her expression, only a practiced bravery that came from navigating a world that constantly noticed what she lacked before who she was. She gestured toward the empty chair and spoke politely, asking if she might sit with them, explaining that the cafe was crowded. The father hesitated, his first instinct shaped by exhaustion and emotional withdrawal. He was used to protecting his fragile bubble, keeping interactions brief and shallow. But before he could respond, his daughter looked up at the girl, studying her not with curiosity or fear, but with something closer to recognition. She smiled brightly and nodded, shifting her own chair to make space, as if the decision were obvious and effortless. That small act, so natural and unburdened, caught him completely off guard. The girl thanked them and settled into the chair, placing her crutches carefully beside the table. As moments passed, something subtle changed in the air. The father noticed how his daughter leaned forward, asking questions not about the missing leg, but about the colorful pins on the girl's backpack and the book she was reading. The one-legged girl answered warmly, her voice steady, sharing pieces of her life without embarrassment or defensiveness. She spoke about her love for art, about navigating the city, about how she learned to adapt after an accident years ago. The father listened in silence, something tight loosening in his chest. He realized how rarely he had witnessed such unfiltered acceptance. His daughter did not see tragedy or difference, she saw a person. And the girl, in turn, did not treat his child with condescension or forced cheer, but with genuine interest. Their interaction unfolded naturally, without the awkwardness he had come to expect whenever disability entered a conversation. It struck him then how much of his own pain came from resisting reality, rather than meeting it with openness. As they talked, the girl shared that she often felt invisible or overly visible, reduced either to her injury or erased entirely. She spoke about strangers who avoided eye contact, or worse, stared too long. Yet here, at this small table, she felt normal. The father felt a pang of shame as he recognized himself in those strangers, recalling how he had almost said no out of habit. His daughter, however, had responded from a place untainted by fear or assumptions. Memories of his late wife surfaced. Moments when she had spoken about raising their child to lead with empathy rather than judgment. He remembered her saying that pain was not a competition and that everyone carried invisible wounds. Sitting there, watching his daughter laugh softly at something the girl said, he felt as though his wife's spirit lingered between them, approving, reminding him of the man he used to be before grief hardened his edges. The conversation drifted gently toward loss, not directly, but in the way people with shared understanding sometimes circle around heavy topics. The girl mentioned the accident that had taken her leg, how it had also taken friends who didn't know how to stay, dreams she had to reshape. She admitted that there were days she hated her reflection, days she felt strong, and days she felt tired of being strong. The father felt seen in those words. Though their losses were different, the echo of resilience sounded the same. His daughter listened quietly, absorbing more than he realized. When the girl paused, the child reached out and placed her small hand on the table, explaining in her simple, earnest way that everyone loses something, but that it does not mean they are broken. She added that her mommy had gone to the sky, and that sometimes her daddy looked like he was missing a piece too. The honesty of it landed with a soft but powerful weight. The father's throat tightened. He had spent so long trying to shield his daughter from his grief, never realizing she had already understood it. In that moment, surrounded by two people who mirrored different forms of loss and courage, he allowed himself to feel fully present. Tears blurred his vision, but he did not look away. Instead, he reached for his daughter's hand, grounding himself in the warmth of her small fingers. Time moved differently after that. The cafe noise faded into the background as something meaningful took shape at the table. The girl spoke about how connection had saved her more than any surgery or therapy. The father reflected inwardly on how isolation had nearly swallowed him whole. He recognized that healing was not about erasing pain, but about letting others sit with you in it. Eventually, the girl prepared to leave, gathering her crutches and slinging her backpack over one shoulder. She thanked them again, her smile lingering. The father felt an unfamiliar urge to speak, to acknowledge the gift she had unknowingly given him. He expressed gratitude for her honesty and for sharing the space. She nodded, her eyes shining, and wished them well before navigating through the cafe with practiced ease. After she left, the father and daughter remained at the table, neither rushing to break the moment. Sunlight shifted across the floor, dust motes dancing in its path. The father realized something fundamental had changed. The world felt slightly less heavy, not because his loss was gone, but because it no longer felt solitary. His daughter leaned against him, content, and he rested his cheek against her hair, breathing in the familiar scent that anchored him to the present. In the weeks that followed, he noticed subtle shifts in himself. He began to smile more easily, to meet strangers' eyes, to accept help without shame. He volunteered at his daughter's school, listened more attentively, and allowed conversations to deepen rather than deflecting them. Grief still visited, but it no longer ruled him. He understood now that opening the door to connection, even briefly, could let light in. He often thought of the one-legged girl, wondering where life had taken her next. She had not saved him in a dramatic sense, but she had reminded him of something vital, that brokenness does not disqualify us from belonging, and that kindness, especially when it is simple and unforced, can ripple outward in ways we never anticipate. Near the end of this story, if it has stirred something in you, if it has reminded you of your own losses or moments of unexpected connection, please take a moment to engage with this video. Like it, share it, and subscribe so more stories like this can find their way to hearts that need them. And before the ending, I invite you to leave a comment sharing a moment when a small act of kindness changed your life, or when a stranger unexpectedly helped you heal. Your words may become someone else's hope. The father would carry that afternoon with him forever, not as a turning point marked by grand gestures, but as a quiet reminder that healing often arrives disguised as inconvenience, as vulnerability, as a simple request to share a table, and sometimes, it is the smallest voices unburdened by fear that teach us how to say yes again.